Hi, my name is Aidan Chueh, and today I'd like to talk about the social justice issue of racial disparities within plea bargaining. Plea bargaining is an agreement between a prosecutor and a defendant in which a defendant pleads guilty in return for a lesser punishment. These plea bargains mean that criminal cases do not have to be sent to trial. Surprisingly, over 90% of federal cases result in a plea bargain according to the U.S. Sentencing Commission. I guess all those court trials like the ones we see on Judge Judy only happen 1 out of 10 times in our justice system. It is clear that plea agreements are definitely the best way to maintain court efficiency, saving time and money. But is it true that plea deals are the best way to achieve justice? One problem I've discovered throughout my research are the racial disparities within plea bargaining. According to the law and human behavior, there are significant disparities in the plea bargains given to defendants of different races. For Caucasian clients, the average years of sentence was 2.22, compared to the average years of sentence 2.88 for African Americans. Although at first this may not seem like too big of a difference, but let me put it this way. The average plea bargain for an African American would be above the 99th percentile for Caucasian sentences. This racial disparity is clearly unfair and should not be how plea bargains work in our justice system. Now I want to turn the discussion towards prosecutors. Of course, not all prosecutors are the same, but these racial disparities do stem from the actions of prosecutors and the plea bargains they offer. I would like to ask prosecutors a couple of questions. Are there motives or reasons for why worse plea deals are given to certain racial groups? And how can we stop or at least limit these unfair plea deals? Well, whether it is because prosecutors have personal bias or because they have more power when negotiating with African Americans, one thing that is quite clear is that prosecutors have too much power and freedom while making plea bargains. The problem is that prosecutors have too much leverage during these negotiations. First, they can threaten defendants with high mandatory sentences that are possible results of courtroom trials. Also, prosecutors are discussing with the defendant who is sitting in jail awaiting trial. It is definitely true that if someone is sitting in jail, they are most likely only thinking about being free. Therefore, if prosecutors provide plea deals that shed off even a couple of years, defendants will almost always take it because they are so desperate. This means that prosecutors define all the terms and might not necessarily achieve justice. Now moving on, here are some solutions I want to propose that can serve as next steps in solving this social justice issue. These are some ways we can restrict the power of prosecutors and help make the situation for targeted defendants more manageable. First, we can reduce mandatory sentences. This means that prosecutors have less leverage to work with. For example, a prosecutor can currently say the minimum sentence for possession of cocaine is 2 years in prison if convicted in trial. This causes a lot of fear for defendants because they do not want to risk harsh punishments even when they may be innocent. However, if we take mandatory sentences out of play, the bargaining will be much less stressful for defendants and allow them to make a much better decision on whether or not they should take a plea deal. Second, we can decrease pretrial detention. Since defendants currently have to be in jail for long periods of time while they wait to go on trial, defendants are suffering from fairly poor conditions. On the other hand, if we decrease pretrial detention, defendants will be able to go on trial much quicker and eliminate the need to accept a plea bargain as an escape from jail. This means defendants will not be forced to accept unfair plea deals. Third, we can oversee plea negotiations with a judge or some other kind of third party. In the present, plea bargaining happens behind closed doors, meaning that a prosecutor can offer a plea deal to a defendant as easily as through a phone call. Although, if we have a judge or some other individual oversee the negotiations, then it is less likely that unfair plea deals will occur. Having a third party will help to regulate the overall process of plea bargaining. To sum it up, these solutions all seek to make plea bargains less coercive and more fair to the defendants. Before I wrap up the video, one more thing I want to emphasize is for prosecutors and people in general to be more mindful not only towards plea bargaining, but with all the actions we do in our lives. If we can achieve this, we can of course eliminate racial disparities within plea bargaining, but more importantly, we can make the world a better place.